All right, everybody. So, yeah, body-worn camera is out now from Moscow Police Department, and it's being aired on Law and Crime. Everybody in America is watching it. Their channel probably broke with the amount of people who are watching that. And I just found out about it. I was doing something else, came back, everybody's asking me for my opinions on something that's happening right now. I'm going to go ahead and take an attempt. And I'm not entirely sure how this works for fair use and all that stuff like that. I may get copyright violations for streaming this, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to try to record this video and my thoughts of me watching this. And I started to watch about 15-20 minutes of it, and I realized I have so many comments already that I'm going to do a recording of my comments, maybe edit that down later to try to avoid the copyright issue. I don't know if I can play the whole thing in its entirety. We'll see how that goes. So I'm going to go ahead and put this up on screen. We're going to give it a shot. And again, I'm always late to the party. That's the way it goes. So everybody's got their own thing, but these are my raw thoughts. Not completely vetted. So when I tell you that I think that's Dylan, that's Jack DeCoeur, that's Bethany, when I say these things, that's my guesses. Some of the officers, I will probably mind blank on which officer it is, so I'm not going to necessarily say their names. I'm just going to tell you what I see because my eyes see things differently than other people. So if you want my opinions on these videos, here we go. I think you're going to have audio on this as I go. This video, it seems like it starts out with a little pre-clip of something and then cuts to the arrival of the officer, and we see it again. It's kind of like a little teaser. I'm going to go ahead and leave it in, I think, and just play it straight as this video is, 52 minutes and 50 seconds long. And we're just going to go ahead and I'm going to record myself raw thoughts, edit later. We'll see how it goes. So hopefully you get the audio.
I kept calling your name and she answered, and I saw the guy. I just walked the door and I ran downstairs. We don't know what's going on.
I'll tell you right off the bat, and I know this is going to be a horrible thing for many people, I don't buy Dylan's performance here at all. Honestly, I hated to say that. I wanted to try to feel that this was legitimate. It feels like a performance to me. Honestly, it feels like a performance. I think Dylan is putting on a performance, and it's not all that good, to be honest with you. That's my feelings. Hate me if you want. Right off the bat, Dylan is putting on a performance and not real good at it. And during this whole entire time, that when I saw what I did see before I stopped and decided to do this recording, I was thinking actress classes would have been helpful because your performance kind of sucks. And again, shame on fucking me if I'm wrong and this is legitimate and Dylan's not putting on a performance, but you wanted my opinion? That's a performance and not a very good one.
Just come here. There's two.
Again, this is teaser stuff right here.
I heard her scream and she ran downstairs because she saw someone. That's what I'm pretty sure she said. Someone's here, and she screamed and just ran downstairs. And I called for her name, but I jumped up and locked my door because I was so scared. And then I heard someone in the bathroom, and I heard her crying, and I heard some guy say that you're going to be okay, I'm going to help you. And I kept calling her name, but she wasn't answering. And then I opened the door for a second, and I saw this guy, and he was not insanely tall, but he was wearing...
Already, by the way, we have a lot of problems because, again, she said at some point that Kaylee went up the stairs and then came back down. It makes it sound like she opened her door and she's hearing this happening right here. It's what it sounds like. It sounds like it's happening right next to her. She thinks it's Kaylee. Does she not know Kaylee's voice? If it was Xana that was being talked to, wouldn't she know the difference between Xana's cry and Kaylee's cry? I have a lot of questions. Again, this is teaser stuff. We're going to get to this again, and I'll break it down a little bit more, but I'm just giving you some of the raw thoughts. And again, this is kind of like a preview, and then they're going to cut to the officer arriving. We're going to see all this again, but let's go on.
All black and like this mask, which is covering his forehead and his mouth.
Well, get to town. We've got a quadruple homicide.
All right, so now this is where the officer arrived. So we've done with the preview stuff. We're going to get to the actual officer arriving. To be fair, a lot of this is going to make you a little nauseous if you try to follow the camera. At least I got that way. I got a little motion sick watching this. You're up close on a body camera. The camera's shaking a lot. There's a lot of movement, and your eyes start. Some of us will need Dramamine while watching this video. So I apologize for that. Although I don't need to apologize. It's not my fucking fault. I didn't record it. But anyways, point being is that it's a little hard to watch. But let's go. You can hear the call coming in, talking to the officers that are about a female that's not waking up, and there's a male in the room with her. So that's what you're hearing on the dashboard or the radio right now. So they're talking about the crime scene as the officers are arriving, and again, a female not waking up and a male with her. Now, I'm not going to cite the officer for removing his seatbelt while driving, but he just took off his seatbelt and he continues to drive for a while. Hey, if we did that, we'd get a ticket. That's okay. It's all right. They have an exemption. Relax. Country music on your dash, I'm going to cut you some slack on that. It's all right. I mean, you could have picked better music. Just kidding. All those who like country music, I don't even know that song. Just sounded country. I'm just making some comments, trying to stop a little bit from time to time. More to break up copyright issues so that we can keep rolling this more than anything else. So busting his nuts about taking the seatbelt off wasn't serious. Let's go. That was some fancy work on the steering wheel, by the way, and that made me nauseous. All right, let's go. Now, I'm not sure what's in the orange bag, but I think it's going to be probably stuff to relate to the unconscious female. One of the first things he's going to come up is, where is she? He's going to ask. They're still, in my opinion, at this point, not knowing it's a homicide scene. You're going to see the moment in which they realize it's a homicide scene. So he's still looking for an unconscious female. That's what I'm gathering by the fact that he's grabbing this bag, going into the house, looking for an unconscious female, I think.
Where's she at? Yep. Where's she at? Where's she at?
That's Dylan off to the right-hand side with the black shirt. You got somebody with the orange there pointing in front of her. I don't know which one of these is Bethany. Hunter, I believe, is in front of you inside the house with the greenish thing straight ahead. So just telling you who I think these people are. Again, he's asking, where is she? I don't think that anybody knows yet. Well, Hunter knows that there's a homicide here. Now, other people know. The reason I did the little laugh is there are more people, I think, that know it's a homicide. But the officers, I don't believe, know yet.
Yes.
So this is the ground floor, as you know. It's the bottom floor where Dylan and Bethany were at. This is Bethany's room area, this bathroom down here. There's a locked room down here that's kind of a utility room. There's an extra room down here that's an office. You see a staircase going up to the second floor, which is where the sliding glass door is. What I want to point out right away is, of course, complete lack of any kind of blood trail, whatever. Now, again, according to the official narrative, the killer never came down this way, and that's expected. So let's just continue on.
Where at? Up here? Up here.
But I do want to stop and say one thing. When the Night Comes Falling book by Howard Bloom was put out, one of the things he said was, the moment the officers entered on that main floor, they knew something was wrong. The moment they walked in, they didn't say it was the smell, but they indicated that they immediately knew something was wrong. Now here, I don't know how you would see that from this image, that you immediately know something's wrong. They also talked about the officers walking through a sluice of blood, which indicates fluid on the floor that they're walking through. There's none of that in this video. So I don't know if, again, Howard Bloom is just doing creative writing exercises and talking about shit that didn't happen, but Howard Bloom's narrative already doesn't feel like what we're seeing on the camera. So now we're on the second floor, which has the sliding glass door, the staircase leading up to Kaylee and Maddie's room. And again, a lot of this video has this black box over it so that you don't see something that you're not supposed to see. Blood, bodies, those kind of things. There's multiple places where I feel like they're covering more than just blood and bodies, whatever the case may be. There's moments when they will cut out the audio so you don't get to hear what they're saying. The officer, if you listen, you're going to hear a lot of breathing, a lot of breathing that indicates the officer is struggling with what he's seeing a little bit. Now, what bothers me the most is I've heard many crime scenes, especially ones that have been sitting for 8 hours, like this one has, where officers lose their cookies, including the point that they said that some of the victims, like Kaylee, had such bad wounds that her face was mutilated and the officer wasn't sure what he was even looking at. Now, there's moments where you'll hear the officer say, dude, like he's I would take as an expression of not processing entirely what you're seeing. It's like, dude, like what the fuck, you know, that's the kind of attitude you have. Now you're going to hear that yourself, and we'll make comment on it again. But again, I want to point out the complete utter lack of any blood in any of these shots. If the killer had just killed two people above on the floor where those stairs go up and then came back down here to leave, you would think there would be a blood trail down the stairs. Should be blood dripped across this table on the way by. A lot of places where I think that there should be obvious trails of blood, including Bethany Funk, who indicated that she saw somebody at the back doors, the sliding glass doors. There was Okay, now it's not official. It's not in that I've seen the writing of it, but that Bethany supposedly said that she saw somebody getting out of clothes at the sliding glass door. Even if that was the case, the indication is you're covered in blood, and so you're changing out of your clothes before you leave the house. There's no blood in the kitchen. There's no blood anywhere. So it's a really, really difficult crime scene for me to process on these videos, despite the redactions and the blackouts. I just don't see it. It just doesn't make sense to my mind. But again, other parts of this feel authentic. So let's just continue.
And I checked this YouTube's video, and I didn't check him yet, but I'm 13.
So you heard Hunter saying he checked in to see if she was breathing. I didn't check him, I think is what he said, meaning Ethan, I believe. So Hunter's explaining, Hunter's still in the house. They're going to quickly find out that this is a homicide. They're going to ask Hunter to get out of the house. But Hunter's describing that he checked her to see if she was breathing, and it indicates he did not think she was breathing. He didn't check him, being Ethan Chapin. So let's continue on. Again, a lot of this is blacked out, so we just have to listen.
Okay, do it.
I don't know if they're still in here or not. I grabbed the knife. They're like
1370. Okay, stay back there, please.
At this point, the officer knows something's wrong. Like I said, he told him to get back, told him to stay back. The officer already knows that there's something wrong. That's how long it took. That's how long it took him to figure out we got a homicide. In my opinion, that officer took about 20 seconds to figure out he had a homicide. The reason why I'm highlighting that is Dylan doesn't know that her friend's dead. Hunter's acting like he's not sure. She's just not breathing. This officer knows what's up in about 20 seconds, in my opinion. That was probably a fuck or some kind of expression of you know, what the fuck. That's what I gather. He sees something, he's processing it now, and he's like some kind of expletive, I think. That to me is the, I mean, I'm breaking this down micromanager. That to me was the sigh of processing as your brain is processing something maybe horrific. He's breathing more. He's taking breaths. He's trying to calm himself down. That's what I interpret the happening from understanding body language. So the officer, a lot of times you will hear him taking some deep breaths. He's trying to, I think, calm his nerves, keep calm. He's seen stuff, in my opinion. He's seen things now. He knows what he's looking at within no time at all. And he's starting now to breathe, to calm his nerves.
Slow down.
And this is where he tells this officer coming up the stairs, slow down. Essentially, he knows it's a murder scene. He already knows. He's making sure cops don't come in and walk all over the crime scene. He's got to make sure to be careful. So this is all indications that officer knew within seconds what he's looking at.
Just come here. There's two. Looks like fatalities.
So he said, just come here. There's 2 fatalities. Again, took 20 seconds to figure that out. There's that more breathing and sighing. I mean, he's processing shit. You know, he's keeping the nerves under wraps.
Dude.
And that's, again, dude, you know. So the other officers joined him. I imagine they're looking into the room. As they're looking at it together, he's like, dude, like, this is bad, right? And if you have to imagine, if this is bad and you're looking at it and it's bad, why in the crime scene photos don't we see what looks like something bad? But anyway, so again, I'm just trying to break down, is this an authentic crime scene? That's what many people out there are telling me, that this didn't happen. It's a complete psyop. And so because of that, that's why I'm spending so much time. Why I'm spending so much time? Because people who say it's a psyop, nobody really died in that house, that's why there's a lack of blood. Well, if that's the case, then we're going to analyze the actions of the officers, including their breathing patterns, the way that they interact with each other, those things. Is it indicative? Is it showing us that what you would expect people who are on a crime scene? So far, I say yes. I say that officer has seen what he believes is fatalities. He started to breathe heavily as he's processing it. He's telling officers to calm down, to relax. They're like, dude, they're looking at it. Everything is authentic to me as an actual crime scene. It's other than the blood.
All right.
Hunter's there telling him about who called him this morning, telling him about something going on in the house. It's hard to hear. It's muffled. I'm not doing isolated audios in here, but I believe that's what's happening. Hunter's explaining about how he was called over to the house. We know from the story that Hunter went into the house, saw what was going on, and then as others were following him up the stairs, the females that were coming up, he told them to get out of the house, because he was, I believe, trying to spare them from what he had seen. So anyways, that's kind of what the scenario is, and he's now telling officers that in the background.
Okay. Nobody's allowed to leave for now. Okay. Just stay here for me, please.
So again, now it looks like, is that Dylan across there? Anyways, nobody's allowed to leave. He says he's going to go to his car. We'll see that in a second. I'm a little bit disturbed and a little critical about, they know for sure, this officer knows for sure, it's a double homicide. At what point do they find it's a quadruple homicide? Pretty quick. So he knows it's a double homicide already. So we know we've got a homicide scene. In fact, what this officer is going to do is he's going to go get the crime scene tape immediately and start taping off the area. That should alert everybody who's watching, if they have any sense of brains, that there's something horribly wrong in the house if they're putting up crime scene tape and making everybody stand away from the house. And the reactions, I don't know that I don't know. I'm not going to make too much of that. Point being is that that's what's happening here, officer. And where I was going with that is, I feel like very, very quickly you need to separate people from each other and make sure that you get eyewitness testimony, and that it's separate from everybody else's eyewitness testimonies, to make sure, as you're at a crime scene right now, that their stories match. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for, when do these people get separated, and ask them independently what their stories are, so that they aren't corroborating each other. So there was a group of individuals who when they showed up, right, there's a group of females, Dylan and Bethany, I believe, are in that pack, right? And we're going to see Jack DeCour, I think, show up from down the street really, really early in this, I believe. So you've got Hunter and Hunter's girlfriend. Is it Emily? I'm trying to remember. Anyways, and you've got Bethany, you've got Dylan, you got a lot of the major players we've all heard about. Jack will come up, I believe, based on what I've read, very, very quickly. Jack saw all the police and all the activity, came over. At one point, you'll hear Dylan say his ex-girlfriend. So I know that that's Jack. I'm almost certain it's Jack that comes up very, very quickly. All right, so let's go ahead and watch the officer get the crime scene tape out. He's jogging, which makes it a little nauseous. There again, in my opinion, is the sigh. a sigh of somebody processing stuff. He's still trying to keep his nerves. That's what I'm interpreting. There's a lot of deep breathing with this individual, right? And I don't remember. I mean, I should know which officer we're looking at, which body cam, but I'm not 100% sure, so I'm not going to say.
Do you know the...
Oh, no, that's Dylan up there. So the person standing across the street was not Dylan. I believe Dylan's right up in here. But anyways, I'm not 100% sure. Faces are redacted. I have to actually hear her voice. Like I'm pretty much, I got Dylan's voice, and I can tell you when it's at. But
Okay. Here, can you guys go over to the dumpster for me, please?
And of course, all he's doing here is he's finding a rock where he can pin under the crime scene photo or the crime scene tape and start to string it. I'm only pausing mostly like every so often just to make sure we're not getting any fair use issues out of this.
Okay, let's clear it. Thanks for...
I believe that's Hunter still up at the house. He's told everybody else to clear away from the building across the street by the dumpster. I think this is still Hunter up here. Head hung low, body posture indicating that he's upset about things. So for what it's worth.
Push over here.
Okay.
I'll just start down here. Police department.
Not sure. I'm not entirely sure why they're redacting this area. They're on the bottom floor. There's no homicides on the bottom floor, so I don't know why they're putting big ass black over the camera on this bottom floor.
Police department.
This room, I think, is a utility room that's locked with the key code. I believe, based on my guess, that utility room has the furnace stuff, and it's the furnace for the house. Landlord probably has the code for this door. Others may have questioned why the police, if they think it's a crime scene, are they not concerned that the killer could be in the house? This officer, if you look at the camera that we're looking at, there's a pistol right in this. You can see the red spot of the sight on there. We're looking at the barrel of a gun. So he's got his pistol out, finger in the trigger. So they're clearing the house at this point. I don't know why they don't be more forceful with a locked door. But that's just me. I'm not being overly critical. I'm just showing that I find it interesting at that moment. But again, I'm not saying there's a conspiracy afoot. I'm just saying as they're clearing the house, I wonder why they don't try to force open doors that are shut. Couldn't a killer have been barricaded in one of these rooms? Again, I have no idea why the redaction of that whole bottom floor. The bottom floor is not a crime scene. So I struggle with that a little bit right off the bat. Why so much redactions on the bottom floor?
Moscow Police Department, if you're in here, announce yourself.
Now, again, this is indication the officers are still clearing the house. They're announcing Moscow Police Department. They suspect there could be, or maybe they don't suspect, but they're making sure that if anybody's hiding, and we're not even like necessarily a bad person, like a survivor who's terrified and hiding in the corner or in a closet because they know something horrible happened and they're hiding. They want to make sure they announce themselves and that people have an opportunity to, say, oh, I'm in here, please, help me kind of thing, whatever the case may be. It's very, very clear. We're clearing the house and officers are announcing themselves. Again, I wouldn't expect any blood on this area, although I believe they said that there was unknown male DNA blood found on this banister going down to the main floor. So it would be to the left of us. I believe there is unknown male DNA blood found on this banister. The killer did not go that far. Now they did say it was on a railing, the blood. It could be on the next railing up, but I feel it's this one. I believe that they said at some point, and I could be wrong, so don't bust on my nuts. I'm going completely raw on this, that one of the unknown male DNA drops of blood was on this banister going down to the main floor. I thought, but just pointing that out. And again, now we're walking. The house is a party house. There's cans all over, beer cans or whatever they are, on the stairs. We're coming up to a very messy room, the main room where Dylan was allegedly with someone that night watching Vampire Diaries, I believe, in the living room. Bethany Funk was there for a while. Bethany went downstairs to her bedroom early to go to bed. So I'm trying to paint the narrative looking at this image so we can understand what's going on. And then, you know, at some point, Maddie and Kaylee went upstairs from this floor that we're walking into to their bedrooms. So that's what we're going to look at right here. There appears to be a backpack in the middle of the floor. There's a lot of cups all over the place, very messy room. At one point, I thought in the middle of the room right here, it looked like a puddle to me. You can't really see it real well. Anyways, it looks like a puddle of liquid right here, which at first I thought, is that spilled beer? Is it, and I'm going to get a little weird and graphic here, is it urine? Is it urine because somebody could have died there and peed? You know, that I was like, what the hell is that? And I don't think it's that. But my thought was when I saw the puddle, and some people have indicated, and the reason why I bring it up is because people have indicated, there's so many theories online. People have indicated that they thought that somebody was killed in the living room and that the body was moved. If that's the case, could there have been, you know, because when, I mean, I'm getting a little bit, you know what, maybe we should put, I'm going to try to put an asset on here and put parental advisory in the corner. As I talk about this, I realize we may want to get a little bit more graphic, and I don't want to have to keep couching that. So from now on, parental advisory is in effect on this video. So if when a body ceases to be alive, when your heart expires, one of the things that happens that people don't talk about a lot is you eliminate urine, feces from the body. That's part of the expiring process. And so I was wondering, you know, like, could that have been that kind of thing? Because again, people said that the bodies were moved, and I'm not saying that. I'm saying I'm taking into consideration comments that have been made by other people. What I would expect, by the way, is blood all through here if a killer had just slaughtered 2 people on the main floor and then came down and slaughtered 2 more people here. Because again, this is the floor that Ethan and Xana are found on, deceased in Xana's room, where Dylan shares a room. And then we're going to go up the stairs to where Maddie and Kaylee were found, I believe. There's the infamous kitchen, the kitchen by Dylan's room, the staircase leading up to Maddie and Kaylee's room. That kitchen area is where someone said, it's hard to explain where it came from, that Bethany saw somebody changing clothes in that kitchen. If that was the case, there should be blood all over the floor. The whole idea of the changing clothes was to not track blood outside. If that's the case, that floor should be covered in blood, should have a lot of blood. So that doesn't make sense to me. So I'm just pointing that out. Total lack of blood here. This is also where Dylan says that she believes that the killer went out that sliding glass door. So I know that if you're not familiar with the house and this is all new to you, it's going to be all fuckered up and discombobulated for you. But if you're really aware of the house, like many of us have been watching this for a long time, even though we haven't seen this kind of video before, it should pretty quickly, you should, okay, that's what the kitchen looked like. That's where this is at. Even though the body-worn camera is shaking and moving all over the place and makes you a little nauseous. We're only 6 minutes in. This is going to be a long one. Guns up with the flashlight on the end of the pistol. So you saw him light up the closet area, utility closet by the kitchen. Again, no blood anywhere here on the floor in the kitchen. No blood leading out the back door. If a single killer had killed 4 people with a single knife, I don't know how you get out that door without any blood. There's zero, in my opinion, blood on the floor leading out the back door anywhere. So how that happens, I don't know. Again, sigh and an expletive. The officer is still processing shit. It's still stressful to them. That's what I interpret.
Clear. Going up.
Now that door, that bedroom that we saw over there, that was, I think, Dylan Xana's area. I don't know exactly, but that's one of the ways they had that redacted. Now he's going up to the floor. This wall, I think, shares Dylan's bedroom. So off to the left, that wall, I think, shares Dylan's bedroom. We're going to go up the stairs now, and we're going to go up one flight. We're going to go around a corner, up another flight, and then you're going to be on that top floor. But utter lack of blood anywhere. I mean, no drips, no drips. That fundamentally bothers me. Let me make sure you understand. If the killer started on the top floor and then moved down to the bottom floor, as many people have been saying in this case, where is the blood trail? There's no part of my brain that can process how you can have killed two people and then walked back down to the floor and not track blood down there. Already we've got a problem, because it doesn't even matter about the official story. What about the unofficial story? What if you go with the two killers scenario? You still think you would have to come down these stairs and track blood out the door, with one possible exception, which would be if the killer left through a window upstairs on the top floor. Now, I don't know if that's even possible. It's 3 stories up. I don't know where the ground floor is. I don't know but if the killer went out the window on the top floor, they wouldn't track blood down here. And if there was 2 killers, then that killer on the main floor would just go out the back door. But it makes no sense, because there's no blood tracked across the floor in there to the sliding glass door. Now, there are indications in the reports that people thought that the killer could have come through window or windows. So did they come through windows? Again, I still fundamentally would have a problem with that, because where's the blood trail on the windowsill? None of this makes sense. The utter lack of blood is so confusing to me. The only thing that would make sense to me is if you killed somebody in that room upstairs and changed clothes right there in the room, and then was careful not to step in blood as you walked out of the house so you didn't leave anything. Same thing down below. If you killed somebody in the room and changed clothes in that room where all the blood's already at and then left, you might be able to get away with what you see here, which is no tracking of blood, no drips of blood. And I don't know, maybe it's just that we can't see it in the definition of the camera, the drips of blood, but I don't see any with the naked eye. So if the only way I can imagine a scenario that makes sense is if the killer changed out of his clothes or her clothes while in the room with the bodies and then left barefoot or in shoes that never touched ground. That would explain the utter lack of transfer blood from one crime scene to another. That's just me riffing off the top of my head of thoughts. Maybe I haven't thought it all through, but I'm giving you raw emotion and analysis.
Please start it.
We're in 3rd floor coming up.
Again, no blood whatsoever. Officers are still announcing themselves, got a search warrant. Do they have a warrant at this point? That's another thing I'm questioning. They're responding. That doesn't make sense to me. They're responding to a crime scene that they're allowed access. They don't need to have a search warrant. They've got access to the house because they've been given access by the call. Why would there be a search warrant? I'm not saying this is conspiracy theory. And in fact, what I would imagine is the officers just going on rote freaking memory recall, right? I'm clearing a house. Most of the time we don't come in and clear a house unless we've got a search warrant. I don't know. Could they have a search warrant? Did he say that search warrant? I could have sworn he said search warrant. We got another one is what I heard. Maybe I didn't hear that. Again, I'm not doing isolated videos. I don't get too into the isolated video. I thought I heard an officer say, we got another one. Lots of redaction on this page, a lot of blacked out areas, so we don't get to see it. They're still announcing Moscow Police Department, which means they're still clearing the house. They still don't know that there's not another person in the house.
Dude.
More dude. So what they're seeing, now they're realizing perhaps it's a quadruple homicide and more dude. There's going to be more breathing. Redaction. I imagine there was a few expletives shared, some comments. I think that is consistent with officers seeing homicides. I would say that's consistent. So just for what it's worth, giving my raw thoughts. It does look now. So we're up here. I don't remember the view. So when I was talking about the windows, we're on the 3rd floor. Look out this window of the 3rd floor as we're going down that split staircase. There appears to be a railing. Does that not look like a railing? Is there a deck on the 3rd floor? If there's a deck on the 3rd floor that accesses a window, and that sure looks like it to me, that looks like a deck on this floor. If that's a deck on this floor, then there should be a window out to a deck on this floor. So hear me out. How do you not track? Wow. How do you not track blood between this crime scene on the top floor and the crime scene down below? Well, the killer up here on this floor gets out of his clothes in the room where the murders were at and out through the window and out that balcony without tracking any blood out. The killer down below in the bottom floor does a similar thing, gets out of clothes and goes out a window. Now, I don't think there was a window in Ethan and Xana's bedroom, so maybe that's a fallacy. But, and again, I understand some of you are going to bust my nuts for coming up with this. I'm asking questions on the fly. I'm going to be wrong about things. But when I look at this, and I early asked the question, the only thing that makes sense to me in this crime scene is the killer or killers got out of their clothes and could have got out a window. And I thought that sounded ridiculous until I see this railing. And I'm like, wow, is there a railing up there? Is there a balcony? Did I miss that? I never asked this question before.
We're clear. Let me just secure the outside first. So.
The front door.
There's a back entry. I was going to start taping it all off.
I'm taping the outside off.
Okay.
Where's the other?
There's two right.
Now, there's a lot of redaction right there as for the audio. My first thought was when the officer's coming up, why didn't he tell him there's two more bodies up there? I think that's when this is happening right now. All of this blacked out audio right here is him telling the officer that was coming up the stairs that there's two more in here. So that's what I think's happening. That's another sigh, another deep sigh. Again, consistent with what we're seeing. Officers are now indicating that the house is clear. They feel like they've seen every room. Odd still, they didn't break into that room that's locked down below. So I don't know if I call that cleared, but we've got officers that watch our channel. Maybe they can tell us about clearing a house and whether or not a locked door is just overlooked as clearing a house. I don't know.
I already got in there. Shut it down in there.
And you heard that clear as day. We turned the corner. I believe we're looking into Maddie and Kaylee's crime scene. It's redacted. You hear a deep sigh. Oh man, like is processing, right? So I feel consistent with homicides that this officer is consistently processing the crime scene mentally, as I would expect. Deep sigh. Lots of breathing, indicating to me as an overshare, what this officer is seeing up here is probably worse than what he saw down below. It's either that or it's the cumulative effect of quadruple homicide. But it feels to me like the officer is needing more time to breathe, more struggles with breathing. And so it indicates to me what was on the top floor is worse than what was on the bottom floor. Or again, his mind is just simply processing a quadruple homicide and that's starting to stick with him. Other officers, oddly enough, seem, well, we don't hear their breathing so much, but they don't, visibly they look fine. Everybody looks fine. Nobody seems to be indicating any trouble dealing with it. This officer, I don't think he's unnaturally having problems. Like he's not a wimp or a wuss, but he's clearly dealing with and breathing and trying to calm his nerves. There's that balcony, I feel. That corner looked awfully blurred. That was awfully weird. I don't want to go back on that, but as we were going, the camera looked horribly blurred on the corner. They turned on the corner. Now, right off to the right, where they've got the black bar on the side of the camera over here, there was an open doorway. That should be, I'm trying to think that that's Dylan's bedroom or the hallway leading down to the bedrooms. Again, this is out into the main room with the beer pong game that we've been told they were playing. I forgot what they called it, Rage Cage or whatever, with the ping pong balls and alcohol. I'm trying to think of the redaction purposes of that one. Huh.
Check with the prints.
I may not have the layout of the house exactly right to figure out where the bedrooms actually were. Now he's going to check for footprints out the back door, the sliding glass door. You see footprints in the snow. Many people have stated the story is horseshit. There was no snow on the ground. You can see the snow. So those, again, a lot of people are very, very vocal with their statement about what is and what isn't happening in the house. There was no snow on the ground. So the story that there were footprints in the snow is bullshit. Well, there they fucking are, people. There they are right in front of you. So there are footprints, maybe not right up to the house, but you see footprints in the snow as they told us. So there it is. Nanner, nanner, neener. Go suck a wiener. All right, let's go. Now, by the way, here's a sloped, you see this sloped ground up the back. There's indications about the car that was parked behind the house. Molly McMichael, the DoorDash driver who was delivering, said that Google took her to the back of the house and that it wanted her to walk down the slope to the back door as the recommended how to get to the house to deliver food. So we're kind of seeing a little bit of that sloped back area. This also is an area where Kaylee allegedly had gone and taken out Murphy before at night and felt that somebody was watching her from these bushes, these tree area. Again, I don't know about these particular trees, but I'm trying to piece together in my mind as we're looking through this, all the things that we've been told. Many of us have already seen these photos, but I'm just trying to recreate little parts that I'm remembering. Nothing really to pay attention to at this moment, other than I need to take moments to pause the audio so that we can break it down. Utter lack of blood coming and going from the residence out the sliding glass door where the killer left. So again, you tell me how a killer, not how two killers, you tell me how a killer kills 4 people with a knife, including bashing in someone's face, mutilating their face so bad that officers didn't know what they were looking at when they saw it, stabbing in the numbers of 50 to 80 times on a couple of different bodies. And this is how much blood they track out. Zero. So explain that to me. Now, we've heard before, listen to this. Again, I'm riffing off this top of my head. In the Dateline NBC special, there was an indication that they told us something new. It was something that, by the way, after they said it on Dateline, the judge freaked out. Who the hell is talking to the media about things that are supposed to be gag order? One of the things that got slipped in that episode of Dateline was that after the killer killed the 2 people on the second floor, this main floor right here, which was Xana and Ethan, they sat down for a moment in a chair. How did they know that? Well, and what does that tell you? Listen carefully. If anything is to my theory, that the reason why you don't see blood tracked all through the house is because the killer took their clothes off in the room. Did the killer sit down in Xana's room and Ethan's room and disrobe in the room? And that's why you don't have blood tracking all through the house. It makes so much more sense to me now. Again, I'm not saying it happened that way, but it makes more sense. Did the killer sit down and disrobe in the room? Now, if that's the case, we have major problems with Dylan's testimony, don't we? Because Dylan says she saw a man all dressed in black with a ski mask on walk by her. So he can't be naked and had completely disrobed unless he got out of one set of clothes and back into another set of clothes. So the story doesn't make sense the way I'm painting the narrative, but one has to ask now, what is the only excuse for no blood tracked all through the house between 2 crime scenes other than the killer or killers disrobed in the rooms where the murders took place so that they wouldn't transfer DNA and stuff out of the crime scene? And that would be a smart move by somebody who probably knows a little bit about forensics. And I've said, I had a long form video on my account already that says, cross-contamination will tell us everything. Meaning, if the murders have started on the second floor, the third floor, the murders started on the third floor, and then the killer went down to the second floor, blood from the first, the top floor will be in the second floor. You'll be able to tell from cross-contamination what killings took place because there would be blood of the first crime scene, whether it's the second floor or the third floor, that would be transferred to the other crime scene. There's no fucking way. I don't know how else to say it. There's no effing way you can have the same killer go to 2 different crime scenes and kill and bludgeon and stab these people to death and not cross-contaminate the scenes. So blood from one scene is in the other scene, or you've got 2 killers. That's the only explanation. More processing, breathing. More redacted. That's the hallway down to the bedroom. Several times it feels like the officer looks out that window several times. I'm not sure exactly why, if he's just checking to where the people are, if he's seeing if it's an egress entrance point. I don't know, but he keeps looking out that window. This is what bothers me. There's a redaction here to the left, but there's also a redaction back in the main part of the hallway going down that way. So maybe again, maybe this is Dylan's room right off here, and Aunt Xana and Ethan's were over in that other redacted area. That's what does make sense. So I think I'm getting it figured out. I think this is probably Dylan's room right here by the staircase. The other hallway area is where Xana and Ethan are at. So that I just figured that out, I think.
There's nothing else out there. Do you want me to go back there and start IDing people?
So now this officer that we've been watching their body cam footage is going to go out and start IDing people. So he's going to start finding what people's identifications are. This is where he's going to start getting soon into a big first take of Dylan Mortenson's testimony. Again, explain this to me. What's the redaction on the bottom floor? There are no murders on the bottom floor. What? And for the life of me, I'm struggling with this the more I watched it. What is the redaction on the bottom floor? It makes no sense to me.
Okay, I'm going to start IDing all of them.
From a distance, you can hear, I think, Dylan making a big deal. You can hear some crying and some whatever. But most people are just standing. Most of these kids are standing. And I say kids, they're young adults standing with their arms crossed in a group, having plenty of time if they wanted to talk to each other. Again, I'm not saying that they are, but let's continue. Now, what's happening here is, so the officer is walking to, he's coming to ID people, right? That's the group of people standing right in front of him as he walked out of the house. But what you've got here off to the left as he turns is EMTs arriving, a bunch of EMTs, like a whole bunch of paramedics are arriving on scene with their kits and their masks and their garb. In fact, in my opinion, an absurd amount of paramedics for an unconscious female. That raises some questions to me. Now, did somebody already radio into 911 that we have a quadruple homicide at this point? I don't think so, because what you're going to see this officer do is he's going to apparently tell them what's going on inside the house at this moment, as if they don't know. Maybe it's a combination. Maybe they have been told. It just seems like a really, really high number of paramedics that are going to be in this shot that you're going to see. And it's interesting because, again, when the night comes falling, there was a part of the chapter where they said some of the victims, sorry, some of the survivors noticed that the EMTs were there with their gear, but they never went into the house. That was a weird thing. Like, why are the EMTs all there, but they don't go into the house? You would think, and I've questioned this before, you would think that an officer is not capable, not allowed to make a determination of death. So you would think you would need an EMT to go into the house and check for survivors, to check pulses themselves, not the officer. I don't think any of the officers actually took pulses or anything. They looked at a crime scene. They said, expletive, deep breathing, couple of homicides, it appears. It was obvious right away to them. But again, they're not qualified to make the determination of death. You would think that an EMT would go in. Instead, what happens is the officer tells all of the paramedics, you don't essentially need to go in here. And it doesn't look like any of them go into the house. And again, I find that a little odd because I don't think an officer is really qualified to make the determination of death. even if it was visibly obvious, because you don't know. People can look really effed up and still be surviving, still be barely breathing, hanging on by a thin thread. You don't know. Some people will look like they're dead when they're still very, very shallow breathing. So I just find it a little odd. I'm not raising this to the level of, oh my God, what a conspiracy. Holy shit, can you believe that just happened? It's just, man, I think that someone should have gone in and checked from the paramedics.
It's a
right there. The reason why it got quiet is I think he's starting out with, it's a quadruple homicide scene. I think this is the first time the paramedics are being told what they've got. This is all silent. The entire thing. And look at how many you got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 from the fire department. So this is all fire department paramedics, I believe. I would guess. Look at even more coming. Well, I think that's Jack DeCour coming up, by the way. I think that's Jack DeCour that you just saw in the background. Right there.
Did they tell you anything?
Now, I don't want to make a whole lot out of this, but I'm giving my raw feeling. Jack DeCour comes on scene very, very quickly. I believe this is Jack DeCour. At some point, you're going to hear Dylan point in his direction and say, her ex-boyfriend right there. So I don't have any question to me that this is Jack DeCour. The reports tell us Jack DeCour arrived very early. He saw everything going on. He walked up on officers, asked him what's going on. You see that in this tape. So I don't think there's much to debate. This is Jack DeCour. What I find interesting is in the various scenarios in which Jack DeCour was motivated to harm his ex-girlfriend because she was leaving him, the love of his life. After a 6-year relationship, she broke up and was leaving and going to Texas. The scenarios that say that he was involved in the murders because he basically, if I can't have her, nobody else will have her, and that Dylan helped lure Kaylee back to this house that night because Kaylee hadn't been staying there for 3 weeks. If Dylan helped lure Kaylee back to the house for Jack DeCour so that something could happen, I find this particularly interesting. Jack walks up, and the first thing that Dylan does is she goes to Jack. They're the first two to pair up in this situation. So if they were, and I'm not saying it is, people, I'm walking through in my mind all the scenarios that I've heard, right? Of the scenarios that I've heard that Jack DeCour had Dylan lure Kaylee back to the house so that he could eliminate her, whether he did it or had somebody do it for him or how he was involved. Again, there's Jack lived within walking distance. You see him walk over. Jack, while he was allegedly seen going to his house after the corner club where Kaylee was at that night and that never came back out of his house. Even Steve Gonsalves, the father of Kaylee Gonsalves, said you can get to 1122 King Road residence without getting caught on camera, indicating that he said even Jack DeCour, even he suspected Jack DeCour could be involved, and it was possible Jack DeCour could have come over to the house without being seen on camera. And again, if you go to the scenario that somebody got into the house, did the killings, changed in the room where the killings took place, and slipped out through a window, it would make more sense. You slip out of a window and back to your house, and you're golden. Nobody will ever suspect a thing. So that's just a scenario to run through. There was another thing I was going to go through on that, but the Gonsalves thing. Fuck. So I got my nuts kicked in by you pronunciation Nazis. And by the way, I'm going to watch this video. I'm looking like we're almost at an hour. So maybe I'll stop this at an hour and then I'll make a second video because there's no reason for you to watch 40 million hours of a video. And I don't even know what my recording process time is. That will also allow people to immediately start watching my analysis of the first hour of the video. So yes, that's what I think I'm going to do, is going to get this first hour in the bag because I'm 11 fucking minutes. I'm 11 minutes into this video and I've got an hour of me talking. Now, where was I going with that? Oh, the pronunciation Nazis, right? So I looked up how to pronounce Gonsalves to make sure I was getting it right. Somebody had said, by the way, Gonsalves is a Portuguese name. The name is pronounced Goncalves, you dumb bastard. And so one video out of hundreds, it seems like, of videos. Maybe I haven't done hundreds. I've done a lot of videos on Idaho 4. One video, I decided to be respectful to the family and use their Portuguese pronouncing name Goncalves. I got busted in the nuts by everyone. This moron doesn't know how to pronounce Gonsalves. It's an S, you idiot. And I got crucified for saying Goncalves once. Here's what I find is funny. You're going to see in this video very shortly, I think maybe in the next hour, because I think I'm going to cut this video after this rant. You're going to see Dylan say, when he says, who's in the house? And she says, Kaylee Goncalves with a hard C. Screw you guys. I'm going home. Anyways, point being, even her roommate doesn't apparently know how to pronounce her damn name, you moron. It's Gonçalves with an S. Even she says Goncalves because it's Portuguese and it's Goncalves. Did Kaylee pronounce herself Goncalves? At the end of the day, does Steve Gonçalves give a shit whether somebody calls him Gonçalves or Goncalves? Probably not. Lots of people who know that their name's pronounced technically one way don't have a problem with you pronouncing it a different way. It's just a matter of you're not going to bust everyone's nuts. So I'm on a side tangent for no reason whatsoever, other than I want to end hour 1, and we're at 55 minutes. Let's end here with, again, Jack DeCour walks up on the crime scene very early. Dylan immediately catches Jack DeCour, and that's the first 2 pairing that happens. And again, in the scenarios in which Dylan lured Kaylee back to the house for her murder, that would probably make some sense to me. The 2 main people involved in that scenario that know what's happened in that house that night are pairing up immediately. And so it may not be anything other than he's close. She knows that that Kaylee's still in the house. That's suspicious too, because if you watch Dylan's recorded testimony to police officers, she's not sure for quite a while that Kaylee is deceased or in the house still. It's like she almost forgot Kaylee was there in some reports. It's kind of confusing. Believe me, her story is continually confusing. Thanks for watching hour 1 of my breakdown of 11 minutes. I'm going to get this in the can and upload it to you while I continue to break down more audios. We're going to be here a while. All right, thanks.